Hey everyone, Jeremy Ballsmith here with Town Housing Real Estate. Today we're on Talk of the Town. I'm visited by Haley Bush, our leasing manager. Haley, how are you?
Hi, pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Well, today we got a lot of topics to go over. So a couple service updates and changes for our investors, but also a lot of fun and exciting updates for our audience, those out in the world watching what Town Housing has going on. So ready to unpack some of that?
I am.
Awesome. Well, good. So today I want to start a little bit with some service adjustments and things that we're working on to, improve town housing, really safeguard our investors and make sure we're doing the best we can, in that leasing function. So where do we want to start?
I think we should start with the new pivots that we've made to the leasing policies.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of those in part being, pivots from COVID where, we had this touchless showing process.
Yep.
We had this really intense, heavy, cumbersome screening and pre-approval process. We're really kind of trimming that back in response to a lot of what our investors said, but also what the community says. And I know you and Grace spoke on that in your last session, but
Yep.
Tell us a little bit more for our investor clients to hear.
We did. We really wanted to see and take into consideration what our clients and what the community was saying. And we took that feedback and really did put it to the test. So our pivots have been for the community that they did not want to pay screening fees and apply to town housing for any of our available units before seeing it. That was their main grievance. And we heard them, we listened, and we've made adjustments to our screening process to allow them for leads and inquiries that we're going in, we're showing available units prior to the pre-approval process. That is one of the biggest changes that we've made because what we were able to do during COVID and those years followed, our leasing team didn't have the bandwidth to be able to screen and show at the same time. But now, because we do have such a strong team, we're able to make that pivot and meet our community where they're at.
Yeah, that's awesome. So a higher frequency of showings, you're expanding that opportunity of getting the right person to at least get to the unit in the first place.
Yes. Rather
than being, just a skipped over listing. Because I think in general, I think applicants start to see, town housing has a cumbersome process.
Yes.
Anything town housing, I'm just going to skip that listing. And I think that, our response has not just been good for the community, but also the investor, really working to reduce the day on market.
Yep.
Get someone who's qualified to come in. But yeah, I think we've got, Lindsay and Grace have been great. And I think the team now, the three of you, has really allowed us to, kind of punch the throttle in so many words.
We wanted to work with the grain and we didn't want anybody to feel as though we were blocking their way to finding reasonable, affordable homes in their area and be able to meet them where they needed us. And with that came maximum exposure. We're tripling our communications through emails, through phone calls, through on-site visits. And the clients seem to be very happy with that exposure. So we're moving in the right direction because what worked before is not working now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think change is constant. So I think that's what we really had to reflect on. I know you've been beta testing this change. How long have you been testing this? Is it in effect or is it not yet fully in effect? And if so, when will it be in effect?
So we have been beta testing it for about the last month. And the team has been given some metrics in regards to how to strategically make sure that they are having their time be as efficient as possible. And whether they're getting ghosted, it's dependent on particular areas. If we're noticing like, hey, we need to stack 4 or 5 showings to make it worth our time to go out to a particular area. And it's been working. We do expect to have a set policy in place before the end of the fall. And that will be the new process for what the team is going to run on going into those December and winter slow months.
Okay, excellent. Now, in addition to that, we're making some changes in, I think, response to fair housing. And I think for our investor clients, it's important. I think for most, it's not so much of a service change, but for some active investors, it will be a pivot. that I hope is received well, or at least understood when it comes to the actual final selection of tenants and who is going to actually be controlling that now and in the future here at Town Housing. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. We were having some concerns with investors and with our clients about being very hands-on for the application selection process. In turn, some of those clients did not know that what they were asking were violating fair housing and anti-discrimination laws. There's protected classes. While we do as agents have fiduciary duties that we need to maintain, we also have to abide by all of those laws and regulations. We have now since taken that effort back. And through our PMA, they're going to be relying solely on the agents and Town Housing to make the best selection on their behalf possible. So we will present applicants, but we will not be presenting as much information as we were prior. And this is going to protect not just Town Housing, but also the clients going forward.
Absolutely. And I think that's the level of professionalism and experience and knowledge that we should be bringing to the customer. So, we should be monitoring fair housing laws. We should be tracking the right metrics to screen applicants. But some of these conversations, while not intended to ride the line or break fair housing laws. I mean, even just, are they married? Mm-hmm. Oh, do they have kids? And it's a touchy subject. There's a lot of emphasis all over, but there's a lot of emphasis right now, especially in Buffalo with fair housing, just due to the nature of our housing here in Western New York, that the Fair Housing Division of the federal government set up camp and they're really pushing hard. So, and as they should, I'm in support of that. But I think for us as a service provider, I think we do need to respond to that. And we do need to make sure that we are not putting ourselves at risk, but also not putting our owners at risk of violating that law. When it comes to renting, I think we're going to use all best practices. We're going to communicate clearly to the residents, make sure that we're getting the best person, in the hopes that things are smooth sailing after placement. And
sometimes they didn't even know that they were violating fair housing laws by asking about protected classes. And it is our job as their agent and representing them to make sure that they do know, and that our primary focus is to uphold fair housing and anti-discrimination laws and also maintain our fiduciary duties to them and work as best we can on their behalf.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we trail into that, we also have a new system, something we've been working with for quite some time, Show Mojo.
Show Mojo.
Right? And I know you've been rolling that out in certain markets, in certain ways, and making sure that, it works, right? It works particularly for the applicant, and improves their experience, and it increases their accessibility to a unit for rent, to, again, help reduce that day on market. Can you tell our investors a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the touchless showings have been successful in that sometimes our agents can't get to a particular property, whether it's just drive time or their schedules don't fit. Sometimes we're booked 3 to 4 days out. So if somebody wants to see it, we don't want them to feel as though they can't. And as long as the unit qualifies for the standards that we have, for example, it has to be a private entry. They wouldn't be able to obtain access to a property that has multiple common areas. And it has to be completely ready. The unit turns need to be completed. It needs to be cleaned. It needs to be completely ready for tenant move-in.
Mint condition.
Mint condition. And our agents do check on those that criteria prior to placing a Show Mojo lockbox. And on the back end, then Show Mojo has their own set of safety standards that we adhere to, and it's been successful so far, and we've been using it for about the last 6 months or so.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Great. So bringing more technology in, technology forward. We're focused on compliance. Mm-hmm. We're focused on all these elements of making town housing and its investors' units more accessible. So that's all good stuff. And even Grace in our team, she's also working flex schedule for a couple months.
Yes.
Really responding to the demand of people who have jobs, right? And want a Saturday showing, which has been huge.
That is also something that the community had a grievance for, is that our set hours were limited and restricted. Well, we heard them, we listened, we really reviewed that feedback, and we flexed our hours accordingly so that we could meet them where they were at and where they needed us.
That's awesome. So we talk about community. The words come up a lot. Tell me where the inspiration for our focus on that has come from.
Yes. So Town Housing, the management team, has started a book club of sorts. And our first book was Good Company by Arthur Blank. He is the founding CEO of Home Depot. And he has gone on to really spearhead multiple large corporations. I think he's the owner of the Atlanta Falcons and spearheaded that whole transition to their downtown location with the new stadium. He owns multiple golfing stores. He owns the ranch out in Montana. Just many different avenues that he has been highly successful. And he really talks about and stresses the importance of core values amongst his companies. And they don't pivot. They do not change. Those are set in concrete. They are unwavering when it comes to their core values and
like their decision-making process as a company. Yeah.
And if something doesn't fit, they pivot, they change. If somebody doesn't align with their values, then they remove those people. And they really just make it so that the community is listened to and they're heard, as well as their staff and their upper management.
Yeah. And when I first read the book and proposed it, I saw the book as more of like, this is awesome for leaders. This is awesome for, entrepreneurial thinkers or entrepreneurial men and women in business. And then it took a turn for like the middle 4 to 5 chapters was heavy on community engagement, charity, outreach. So I didn't expect that, but when I got into it, I think the team responded well. So there's a couple things we're doing, but the biggest service town provides that touch the community are the placement of residents into their new home. Yeah. And it's a really personal and it's a really stressful task. And I think you all do it very well. So I'm happy to hear the book has helped drive a refreshed attitude in the leasing team, but I know it has also in the company. So very excited.
Yeah.
A lot more to come here at Town Housing and especially the leasing team. So very excited to have you today.
Thank you.
And looking forward to the future.
Great. Me too.